The overthinking paradox. You're lying in bed at 2 a.m., replaying a conversation from 3 days ago. You're analyzing every word you said, every facial expression you made, wondering if you came across the wrong way. Your mind won't shut off. It keeps spinning scenarios, asking, what if, over and over again. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people experience this mental spiral we call overthinking. But here's something most people don't realize: while society often treats overthinking as purely negative, as something to fix or eliminate, it might actually be a sign of something much more interesting. Recent psychological research has begun revealing a fascinating truth: chronic overthinkers often possess a unique set of cognitive traits that set them apart. These aren't weaknesses. They're rare qualities that, when understood properly, can become incredible strengths. Today, we're going to explore the hidden traits that overthinkers possess. And by the end of this video, you might see your overthinking mind in a completely different light. So let's dive into what makes your brain so uniquely wired. The first trait might surprise you, because it's something most people spend years trying to develop. Heightened emotional intelligence. Here's the first rare trait: overthinkers typically have exceptionally high emotional intelligence. Think about it. When you overthink a social interaction, what are you actually doing? You're processing multiple layers of information simultaneously. You're reading between the lines, picking up on subtle emotional cues, analyzing body language, tone of voice, and the unspoken feelings behind someone's words. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine you're in a meeting, and your colleague says, "That's fine," when you suggest an idea. Most people might take it at face value and move on. But an overthinker notices the slight hesitation before they spoke. They catch the tension in their shoulders. They remember that this colleague seemed stressed earlier in the day. Within seconds, the overthinker has processed all this information and understood that "fine" doesn't actually mean fine at all. This is emotional intelligence in action. You're not just overthinking, you're deeply reading the emotional landscape around you. Psychologists call this affective sensitivity, and it's a trait associated with strong interpersonal relationships and leadership abilities. Research from the University of Michigan found that people who engage in repetitive thought patterns often score higher on tests measuring empathy and emotional awareness. Your tendency to analyze situations from every angle means you're constantly considering how others might feel, what they might need, and how your actions affect them. But emotional intelligence is just the beginning. The next trait is something that some of the greatest minds in history shared: exceptional problem-solving abilities. The second rare trait is this: overthinkers are natural problem solvers with an extraordinary ability to see patterns and connections others miss. When your mind refuses to let go of a problem, it's actually doing something remarkable. It's running countless simulations, testing different scenarios, exploring alternative outcomes, and searching for the optimal solution. This mental process, while exhausting, is incredibly sophisticated. Think about inventors, scientists, and innovators throughout history. Many of them were known overthinkers. Albert Einstein would spend hours lost in thought experiments. Thomas Edison famously said he didn't fail, he just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. This kind of persistent, repetitive thinking is what leads to breakthrough innovations. Here's a practical example. Let's say you're planning a family trip. While someone else might book the first decent hotel they find, you're considering dozens of variables: proximity to attractions, neighborhood safety, reviews from different time periods, cancellation policies, weather patterns for that time of year, and backup plans if something goes wrong. Yes, this takes more mental energy. But it also means you're far less likely to encounter problems, and when unexpected issues do arise, you've already thought through multiple solutions. Cognitive psychologists have found that this type of thinking activates the prefrontal cortex more intensely than in non-overthinkers. You're essentially giving your problem-solving abilities a constant workout, making them stronger over time. This next trait is perhaps the most misunderstood, yet it's what drives some of the most creative people in the world. Deep creative capacity. The third rare trait, overthinkers possess a profound creative capacity that goes beyond conventional imagination. Now, this might seem contradictory at first. Overthinking is often associated with anxiety and paralysis, not creativity. But here's what research reveals: the same mental processes that drive overthinking also fuel creative thinking. When you overthink, your brain makes countless connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. You explore possibilities that others dismiss immediately. You ask questions that others never think to ask. This is exactly how creativity works. A study published in the Journal of Creative Behavior found that individuals prone to rumination, a form of overthinking, often demonstrated higher scores in creative problem-solving tasks. The researchers discovered that the constant mental activity creates a rich internal landscape where new ideas can emerge and combine in unexpected ways. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're trying to solve a challenge at work. A non-overthinker might brainstorm for 15 minutes and pick the most obvious solution. But you're still thinking about it 3 days later. You're connecting it to a book you read last month, a conversation you had last week, and a pattern you noticed in a completely different context. Suddenly, you have an innovative solution nobody else considered. Writers, artists, musicians, and creative professionals often describe their creative process as involving intense periods of overthinking. J.K. Rowling spent 5 years planning the Harry Potter series before writing the first book, meticulously overthinking every detail of the wizarding world. This deep, obsessive thinking is what creates rich, complex, memorable work. But there's another trait that's even more valuable in our increasingly complex world: enhanced self-awareness. The fourth rare trait is profound self-awareness, something many people struggle their entire lives to develop. When you overthink, you're not just analyzing external situations. You're constantly examining your own thoughts, feelings, motivations, and behaviors. You're asking yourself, why did I react that way? What does this say about me? How can I do better? This continuous self-reflection, while sometimes uncomfortable, creates a level of self-knowledge that most people never achieve. You understand your triggers, recognize your patterns, know your weaknesses, and can identify when you're acting from a place of fear, insecurity, or ego. Consider this scenario. After a disagreement with a friend, most people might feel justified in their position and move on. But an overthinker will spend hours examining their own role in the conflict. Did I listen properly? Was I defensive? Did my past experiences color my reaction? Could I have handled it differently? This might sound exhausting, and sometimes it is. But it's also how personal growth happens. Psychologists consistently emphasize that self-awareness is the foundation of emotional maturity, better relationships, and effective leadership. Research from organizational psychology shows that leaders with high self-awareness make better decisions, inspire more trust, and create healthier team dynamics. They understand not just what they think, but why they think it, and how their internal world affects others. Your overthinking mind is essentially conducting constant self-audits, helping you become more authentic, more honest, and more aligned with your values. Many people pay therapists thousands of dollars to develop this kind of self-awareness, and you're doing it naturally. Now, this next trait is particularly powerful because it directly affects your future success. Strategic thinking and future planning. The fifth rare trait, overthinkers are exceptional strategic thinkers with an innate ability to anticipate future scenarios and plan accordingly. When you overthink, you're not just focused on the present moment. You're constantly projecting into the future, considering long-term consequences, and thinking several steps ahead. This is strategic thinking at its finest. Let's look at a real-world application. When making a career decision, a non-overthinker might focus primarily on salary and job title. But you're considering how this role fits into your 10-year plan, what skills you'll develop, how it aligns with your values, what the company culture will do to your mental health, how it affects your personal relationships, and what doors it opens or closes down the line. This comprehensive future-oriented thinking is what separates good decisions from great ones. Business leaders, chess grandmasters, and military strategists all share this trait. They think multiple moves ahead, constantly running simulations of possible futures. A fascinating study from Stanford University found that individuals who engage in prospective thinking, essentially overthinking about future possibilities, were significantly better at goal achievement and long-term planning than those who didn't. They were more likely to anticipate obstacles, prepare backup plans, and achieve their objectives. Here's another example. Maybe you're planning to buy a house. While others might focus on whether they like the kitchen, you're researching neighborhood development plans, school district trends, property value projections, potential zoning changes, and how climate patterns might affect the area in 20 years. Yes, this takes more mental effort. But it also means you're making more informed, strategic decisions that serve your long-term interests. You're not just living reactively, you're architecting your future with intention and foresight. This next trait might actually explain why overthinking can feel so isolating at times. Deep analytical processing, 9 to 10:30. The sixth rare trait is something psychologists call deep analytical processing, the ability to think in layers and examine issues from multiple sophisticated angles simultaneously. Most people process information at a relatively surface level. They see what's obvious, draw quick conclusions, and move on. But overthinkers can't help but dig deeper. You automatically question assumptions, explore underlying causes, consider alternative explanations, and examine the nuances that others overlook. Imagine reading a news article about a political decision. A typical reader might think, I agree with this, or I disagree with this, and scroll to the next story. But an overthinker is immediately asking deeper questions. What's the context behind this decision? Who benefits? What are the unintended consequences? What historical patterns does this reflect? What's not being said? This depth of analysis is what drives academic research, investigative journalism, and philosophical inquiry. It's how we move beyond surface-level understanding to genuine knowledge. Cognitive research shows that this type of thinking engages more neural networks and creates stronger, more flexible mental models. Essentially, you're building a more sophisticated understanding of how the world works. While others see simple cause and effect, you see complex systems with multiple interacting variables. In professional settings, this trait is incredibly valuable. While a surface-level thinker might implement a quick fix that creates new problems, you're considering how each solution ripples through the entire system, affecting different stakeholders in different ways. The philosopher Bertrand Russell once said, "The whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts." Your tendency to overthink, to question, to analyze deeply, is a sign of intellectual humility and sophisticated thinking. So we've covered 6 powerful traits, but how do you actually use these qualities to your advantage? That's what we're covering next. Harnessing your unique mind. So here's what we've discovered. If you're an overthinker, you likely possess 1. Heightened emotional intelligence that helps you navigate complex social situations and build deeper relationships. 2. Exceptional problem-solving abilities that allow you to find creative solutions others miss. 3. Deep creative capacity that fuels innovation and original thinking. 4. Enhanced self-awareness that drives personal growth and authentic living. 5. Strategic thinking skills that help you plan effectively and achieve long-term goals. And 6. Deep analytical processing that creates sophisticated understanding of complex issues. These aren't flaws to fix. They're rare cognitive gifts that set you apart. The key is learning to manage the challenging aspects of overthinking while leveraging these incredible strengths. Instead of fighting your mind, work with it. Schedule thinking time, where you allow yourself to analyze deeply, then practice setting boundaries so your mind can rest. Use your emotional intelligence to build meaningful connections. Channel your problem-solving abilities into challenges that matter. Direct your creativity toward projects that excite you. Apply your self-awareness to continuous growth. Utilize your strategic thinking to design the life you want. And employ your analytical skills to make informed, thoughtful decisions. Remember this: your overthinking mind isn't broken. It's rare, it's powerful, and when understood properly, it's a tremendous advantage. The world needs people who think deeply, who consider consequences, who see patterns, and who won't accept simple answers to complex questions. That's you. So the next time you find yourself overthinking at 2 a.m., instead of fighting it, try this: recognize it as your exceptional mind doing what it does best.